tell you that story. It is an awesome story that only came because God, at some point, and you don't know it until you get there, but God had a plan for my life, right? And until you meet Him, you'll never know what that story will be. So, I grew up in Richmond, Missouri, and this is my story. I grew up in Richmond in a family that was alcoholic. My mom and dad were extreme alcoholics. My dad was very abusive to my mom. Witnessed a lot of things probably a young man probably shouldn't have witnessed. I see my dad and my mom with a gym bottle in her face, and she had to go to the hospital. I get woke up to arguing and fighting, and I witnessed those things. I grew up in a family that alcohol and drugs was kind of the mainstay. It's like it was almost normal to be in alcohol and drugs and gambling and all those things. And growing up around that, it seemed like the norm. It seemed like that was what I was destined to do. Everybody in my family did. But something about me was different. I felt different. I didn't want to be that kind of person because I saw the destruction that it caused. Watching my mom and dad go through that, watching aunts and uncles get shot, I've seen people get stabbed, I've seen gambling parties go wrong. I knew early that I didn't want to be that way. I knew early I didn't want to be that way. I had to be the difference maker. So I wanted to go to college and play college football. Football and sports were the only thing that kept me away from that lifestyle. If it wasn't for those things, I don't know where I would be right now. So, going a step further, I ended up going to Church Methodist, played college football there for 4 years, got married very young. I was 21 when I got married. Had a son my senior year. My wife and I got married in '91, and I knew at that point that life's different now. I've got to do something different. So graduated, went on to Hastings, Nebraska, got my master's degree, coached college football in Nebraska. Then once I got out of that, I decided that I need to, the family was growing, I need to do something different. So eventually we moved to St. Louis, Missouri in 1998. The testimony that I'm going to share right now is how I met God. My story of my encounter with God was we moved to St. Louis in '98. We didn't have much money. I was just getting into teaching. I was like my 3rd or 4th year in education. My wife we had 4 kids at the time. We didn't have, again, we moved to a new area that we didn't know anybody. But I knew things were different. St. Louis was a different place. So I made my first year at Lindbergh High School. Like the first or second week of school, my car breaks down. So I ended up having to walk to work. Now this was probably 10 to 15 miles. I had to jog, walk to get there. I had to get there. I couldn't miss work. I had to get to work. So I'm jogging and walking to get to my school. So I get in the office and I'm all sweaty and my office mate, who was an older gentleman who was about to retire, saw that I was kind of distraught. I had my head on my desk. I'm pretty much in tears, and he asked me what was wrong. I said, well, God must hate me, and I didn't know anything about God. But I was just thinking something's wrong with me because I moved here. I'm doing something that I thought was good. Now I'm being punished for something. I can't get to work. I don't have a car, so I'm laying my heart out for this man. And he goes, well, let me help you. I'll give you a ride home today, and we'll help you out. Okay, so he ends up giving me a ride home. So the next morning, my wife and the neighbor took me to work the next day. And when I get to office, I had to get there early because I had to leave when they needed to leave. So I get to the office and there's an envelope on my desk. And in that envelope was a check. And the check was for the exact amount, that it costs to get my car fixed. So I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I'm bawling, like I'm this big old guy bawling in the office. So I'm crying, and my office mate comes in, and he could be the only one that did this. So I asked him, I said, did you put this on my desk? He goes, yes, I did. He goes, it's not a loan. It's a love offering. And all I want you to do is come and visit my church. I'm like, I didn't know. Sure, I'm bawling. I give him a big hug, and so that Sunday, my wife and the family went to church in Arnold, Missouri, in St. Louis, and my wife took to it quickly. She gave her life that day. She knew something had to give. We weren't living the great life. We had 4 kids who were watching us drink, and so we knew something had to change. So that moment, my wife gave her life to the Lord, but I wasn't done being big bag college, high school football coach. So it took me 4 years of watching my wife and my kids change, seeing how being at church and being around people who are loving on me, and I'm not used to this. I grew up in church, but I wasn't church. Does that make sense? I grew up going to church, but no one ever taught me salvation or mentioned it. It was just come, show up in your Sunday best, live like you want to, Monday through Saturday. Sunday is different. Okay, and then going to this church and learning how Christ has a better plan for your life, I saw that I was as far away from Christ as I could ever think of, but I didn't know anything. So it took me 4 years. I gave my life to Christ, and things changed. How I coached changed. How I treated my family changed. Everything about me changed, and it was an awesome feeling. It was an awesome feeling. Something changed. Something was different in me that I knew I wanted to share. That's the whole thing about salvation. God wants us to use that for His glory, to tell our story and help someone else out. But of course, when you grow up in an area that is far from Christ as it can get, I'm like, well, God, I know you want me to do something with this new life. What do you want me to do? I'm living differently. I'm doing things differently. I'm going on mission trips. I'm preaching to my teams. I've been a head coach for so many years at a few different schools in St. Louis. I'm changing lives. We saw hundreds of our student athletes give their life to the Lord because of our family's willingness to reach out. But there's something else God was tugging on my shirt saying, there's something else you need to do. And so it takes me to Mark 5:18-19, where it says, go home to your family and friends. Tell them about the things the Lord did for you. Tell them that the Lord was good to you. So I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Home was destruction. Home was drugs, alcohol. Who's going to believe me? I lived that life. Who's going to even take me serious? Because they know my past. They know what I lived through, what I did. They know what my family stood for. Why are you telling me to go home? What does home have to do with me being happy right now? I'm doing great here. How many of you guys have felt that? That there's something missing. I'm living a Christ life, but I know there's something else I need to be doing. So I took that. So I prayed about it. Kicking and screaming. I said, okay, I'm going to follow your lead, Lord. If you want me to go. And now home could be, for any of us, a lot of different things. Doesn't mean, how many of you guys are from this area? You grew up here, you live here. Okay. Home doesn't have to be, somewhere else. Home is your friends, family, co-workers, anybody else that you know does not have Christ in their life. That's home. That's home. Go to those people and give them the good news that you know. And it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable feeling. Because the first thing we think about is, they don't want to hear that. They're going to look at me differently. I'm going to rub some people wrong. Why are you preaching to me? Don't. Those are all the things that were running through my head, that I'm going to get backlash. And then I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to lose friends. But it was the total opposite. Once people see it lived out, you got to be walking proof of the new life. You can't be one way and live another. You can't be lukewarm, as God says in His Word. You can't be on the fence, 1 foot in the world and 1 foot out. Because that's going to be a testimony that people aren't going to believe. You have to be authentic. It has to be real. God has to be every part of your life in order for you to be able to go and preach that to your friends, family, coworkers, or whatever, and it makes sense, or it be real, and they take it in a way that they need to take it. So once I decided that I could do that, I started with my parents. I had to. My story had to be told, especially to my parents, of how God changed my life, and how, knowing that if you were to die today, if they were to die today, where would they go? And that's the first question I always ask anyone is, if you died today, where would you go? And what's the most common answer you hear? I don't know. I think I would go to heaven. Or I've done some good things. I think I would be okay. That word think bothers me. Because if you're thinking, then you're not sure. And if you're not sure, you're probably not saved. My mom's first answer, the first person I went to was my mom. She's right now in some pretty bad health. She's dealing with dementia. And that's a horrible disease. It's horrible. Watching your mom just wither away. But I went to her first, and I told her my story. And I prayed a prayer of salvation with her before she started to get bad, and she accepted. And that was when I knew that God's got a calling in my life. My mom gave her life to the Lord. I know right now that if my mom was to die today, I would see her again in heaven. I know that. So I continued to do that. I went through my whole family, my brother, my dad, my sister. It was awesome. It was awesome to see, but I knew there's more people in Richmond that need to hear that story. People that grew up with me, that knew the heathen that I was when I was in the world. I wanted to save, but I was nervous. I was scared. I was worried. Biggest thing I was worried about is they're not going to believe me. Or if I go to them, I'm going to go back to my old ways, because it's easier to revert, to get their attention, because they'll want to listen to me at that point. But this scripture came to mind, and it's Romans 12:2, and it states, "And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." I wanted them to see a new, renewed mind that I had, so that anyone that I would go and speak to, some old friends that I knew that were living wrong but had kids, and I knew that probably didn't know Christ, but I wanted to make sure that people that I thought were close to me, that they had an opportunity to hear the good news and make a decision on their own whether they would want to go to heaven or not. So that allowed me, that gave me peace about giving my testimony to people that I didn't know would want to hear it, but found out that it changed their lives. To see me, who grew up a heathen, who was a heathen for a very long time, to see my changed and transformed life gave them hope. that story that I would give them of how I met the Lord gave them hope that I don't have to live this way. I don't have to always be stuck in this rut. There is a better life for me. It's going to need to be some changes. I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to lose, but what an awesome way to do God's will, do God's work, than to tell your testimony. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Just tell how you came to the Lord. So, I didn't want to be one that would be picky and choosy to who I would want to tell my story to. Because it's easy to do. Well, he's not good enough. I still see him with a beer in his hand, so I'm going to leave him alone. But I'm going to go over here because this is easier. That's judging. And who am I to judge? Because God had to touch me and change my life from that way. Why can't he touch that person? So it brought me to Romans 14:13. Therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Let me see that. Let me find that. Let me find it right here. Excuse me. Lost my spot. It's 14:13. Therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in your brother's way. So, me not going to them and talking to them about the good news of Jesus and what he can do for our lives is passing judgment. That's not my place. My job is to go into the world and be the salt and the light to whoever God puts in front of me. And that was so enlightening to see that stumbling block. Don't judge people because of where they are right now, because God says, come as you are. We're all filthy, we're all born sinners, but because of his grace and his mercy and his love for us, he sent his son to the cross for us. And that deserves our testimony. How we can change, how our lives change can be the light that shines bright for someone else to have that same opportunity to meet the Lord and to have the assurance of heaven when God takes them home. So to kind of sum it up, what's God's plan for your life, for your story? We all have one. Have you had an opportunity to share your story? Or are you like me that, every opportunity you have, even with a coworker that you know, maybe you guys be sitting at work and you hear someone say, oh man, my cousin's battling with cancer and I just don't know what to do for him. What's the best thing we can do for someone? Pray. Just offering up a prayer is an opportunity to share your story. It doesn't have to be even a verbal prayer. Maybe some people get offended at that at first. It can just be, hey, I'm just going to pray for you. The one thing that bothers me though is when I hear people say, I want to pray for you, then they don't do it. Maybe you guys have done that, I want to pray for you, but then we get busy, life gets busy, and we forget. That's why I like when I say I'm going to pray for someone, I do it right at that moment. So I don't forget. That's the way we can share. That's the way we can open up our hearts for others who may not know where that help comes from. We can give them that help, that hope. And then that opens a door for, why are you so different? Prayer, why would you want to pray for me? That's a door opener for, well, let me tell you what God did for me. Then you can share your testimony. Use your story to change someone's life. Use your story to be the light and salt to people that you know are hurting. We're living in a world that's drugs, alcohol, shootings, all, I mean, we need prayer constantly. This world needs people like you and I to just bow and pray and show that there is a different way to live. It's okay to pray. It's okay to be someone's shoulder to lean on, to cry on. If we give our story and are willing to give our story, you can change someone's life forever. And that's what I truly feel God wants us to do. All right. That's my time. I thank you very much. Sorry for my rambling, but it's a big task to do, to use your story. And again, you all have one. You all have a story, how a time and a place where you knew that's the day that God changed my life. God did something for me, and I want to share that. I want to use that to bless someone else. Even if it's one person, that one person, God didn't leave that. Out of the 99, he went after that one, that sheep, that one. Even if it's that one that you know, that coworker, that niece or nephew that you know is struggling, your mom or dad, your cousin, your neighbor who's maybe going through a divorce and feels like, oh, I'm so bad, this divorce is sometimes divorce is needed. They need to be assured, they need people to support them, not judge. Not judge. So, again, thank you for your time, and if there's any questions you guys have for me, please ask. But it is important that we share our story to lighten it, to change a life for God's